Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupada Paramahanta Paribhajaka Acharya Ashto Tarashata Shishimad Bhaya Charana Ravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitalila Vishnu Vishnupada Ashto Tarashata Shishimad Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Thakur Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Karantaraj Śrimad Bhāgavatam Ki Jai Gaur Premanandi Glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga. Hare Krishna. It's first of all, a great honor and pleasure to be in the company of so many wonderful Vaishnavas. And I hope that by your mercy I could say something meaningful. Is there a Bhagavatam? Oh, okay. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today's Śrimad Bhāgavatam reading from 3rd Canto, 23rd chapter, texts number 36 and 37. Satam Krita Malasnanam Vibrajantim Apurvavat Atmano Vibratim Rupam Sambhita Ruchirastanim Satam Krittamalasnanam Vibrajantim Apurvavat Atmano bibratim rupam Sambhita ruchirastanim Satam kritamala snanam Vibrajantim apurvavat Atmano bibratim rupam Sambhita ruchirastanim Satam kritamala snanam Vibrajantim apurvavat Atmano bipratim rupam Vita ruchirastanim Satam kritamalastanam Vibrantam apurvavat Mano bibratim rupam Vitambatim Madina Padam Bhutam Vurvavat Stanam Rajantim apurvavat Atmano bibratim rupam Sambitam ruchari stanim Vaishnavis. Sadam kritamala stanam Amrita ruchirastanim Satam kritamala stanam Vibrajantim apurvavat Atmano bibratim rupam Sambhita ruchirastanim. So I'll just read the second verse and then we'll do the word for word. Bijadari sahasrena sevyamanam suvasasam jatabhavo vimanam tad arohayad amitrahan. Sa, the sage, tam, her, devahuti, kritamala snanam, bathed clean, vibrajantim, shining forth, apurvavat, unprecedentedly, atmana, her own, vibratim, possessing, rupam, beauty, sambhita, girded, ruchira, charming, stanim, with breasts. So I can read all of it, even though you don't, well, you have it here, so, okay, good. Sevyamanam, being waited upon. Suvasasam, dressed in excellent robes. Jatabhava, struck with fondness. Vimanam, airplane like a mansion. Tat, that. Arohayat, he put her on board. Amitrahan, O destroyer of the enemy. A translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The sage could see that Devahuti had washed herself clean and was shining forth as though no longer his former wife. She had regained her own original beauty as the daughter of a prince. Dressed in excellent robes, her charming breasts duly girded, she was waited upon by 1,000 Gandharva girls. O destroyer of the enemy, his fondness for her grew, and he placed her on the aerial mansion. Everyone can please repeat. The sage could see that Devahuti had washed herself clean and was shining forth as though no longer his former wife. She had regained her own original beauty as the daughter of a prince. Dressed in excellent robes, her charming breasts duly girded, she was waited upon by 1,000 Gandharva girls. O destroyer of the enemy, his fondness for her grew, and he placed her on the aerial mansion. Purport. Before her marriage, when Devahuti was brought by her parents before the sage Kardama, she was the perfectly beautiful princess, and Kardama Muni remembered her former beauty. But after her marriage, when she was engaged in the service of Kardama Muni, she neglected to care for her body like a princess, since there was no means for such care. Her husband was living in a cottage, and since she was always engaged in serving him, her royal beauty disappeared, and she became just like an ordinary maidservant. Now, after being bathed by the Gandharva girls, by the order of Kardama Muni's power, she regained her beauty. And Kardama Muni felt attracted to the beauty she had shown before the marriage. Of a young woman is her breasts. When Kardama Muni saw the breasts of his wife, so nicely decorated, increasing her beauty many times, he was attracted, even though he was a great sage. Shripad Shankaracharya has therefore warned the transcendentalists that one who is after transcendental realization should not be attracted by the raised breasts of a woman, because they are nothing but an interaction of fat and blood within the body. Om Jnanatimidandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatya Rishatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So these two verses are kind of a summary of everything that was spoken up to this point. So I just tried to pick out some salient features of this chapter and some very valuable instructions that especially Srila Prabhupada has given in his purports. First of all, in the second verse of this chapter, it mentions Vishrambena and Gauravena, two types of association. First one is with intimacy, and the second one with great respect. So when these two things are both necessary. Of course, much more intimacy in the case of a wife serving her husband, but also in the guru-disciple relationship, which there are a lot of comparisons throughout the chapter, which Srila Prabhupada makes, that there has to be great respect, but there also has to be intimacy. But the intimacy of a disciple is of a very specific nature. Just like when Yayati wanted to trade his old age for youth, which is, it's not a very good offer for anyone, unless someone is really interested in transcendental realization, as Srila Prabhupada points out here at the end of the purport. Then getting some old age right away, avoiding the mode of passion of youth might be advantageous. If you could, go along with having good health, of course, sometimes good health can also be a distraction. Anything can be a distraction or an advantage, however, how we see it and how it can contribute to our Krishna consciousness. So Yayati, he approached Yadu, and Yadu refused, but he refused very respectfully, saying, what you're offering to me, you're going to put me in the same situation. I haven't realized my youthful duties, and if I don't, then I may, I may not understand life properly. But his real motive was that he knew, he was inspired that Krishna would appear in his dynasty. And if he got old age right away, there would be no dynasty, and then Krishna may not appear. Of course, Krishna could appear anyway, but so Yayati didn't like it, but he accepted it. Then his next two sons, he said, please take mine. They said, forget it. No way. We want to enjoy. And so he got very angry at them. And then his fourth son, Puru, he approached him and he said, of course, my father. Of course I'll accept it. There's only one problem. That I didn't realize, I should have offered to accept it. So this is the intimacy of a disciple. Just like in those who chant the Gayatri mantra, the first Guru mantra says, we know the spiritual master. Well, it's not like know him, go up and shake hands and say, how are you doing? But to know him means know what is the mission of the spiritual master. What is the desire? This is the intimacy that a disciple should look for. I want to understand. Of course, in our Krishna consciousness movement, even though different people who act as spiritual masters, either Diksha or Shiksha gurus, may have a particular emphasis, our emphasis is on Srila Prabhupada's desire to distribute Krishna consciousness through prasadam, harinam, books, preaching, and one of the foremost things, example. Our example. Even if one is working in a company or whatever, the example is very important. Just like when I was first joining Krishna consciousness, I was in the army, and I read Bhagavad Gita, and I thought that Arjuna was a soldier and he did his duty, therefore I should do the same. And because I did that, otherwise I would have been like everybody else that got drafted, thinking, get me out of this place. But because of that, the captain came up to my room. I thought he was going to chastise me because everybody was angry because I was getting up so early. They'd throw shoes at me and everything, and shut off the light. And I thought he's going to chastise me. He said, you don't belong here. I said, I couldn't agree with you more. He said, I'm going to send you to the chaplain's department. You should be in the church. You have all these religious books. And he said, and you're a vegetarian, so you can't eat with these soldiers. I'm going to give you separate rations. And you can't live with these people, so I'm going to give you separate housing. So I got more privileges than like captains or majors, and I was just a lowly plebe, you know. So the point is that by the example, and everybody, and because I was chanting Hare Krishna, I was happy. And everybody was, why are you happy? We're all miserable. Why are you happy? And then I would give them Bhagavad Gitas, and they would, you know. So just to show how, just trying to follow the example that Srila Prabhupada is recommending for us, how to conduct life, what attitude we should have. And one of the 26 qualities of a Vaishnava is to be friendly. You know? Just like sometimes when I'm walking on the streets, you know, people like, they don't want to look at you. So many people, it's like, make an effort not to even look at you. Their consciousness is being absorbed in the black hole of cell phone. You know? It just sucks the consciousness in and doesn't allow it to go anywhere else. You know? And you know, it's creating an army of zombies as far as I can see. But anyway, that's another subject matter. So this combination of intimacy, but intimacy, Srila Prabhupada comments, should not be familiarity. Intimacy means always the respect must be there when you're dealing with the superior. And of course, if we're advanced Vaishnavas, then everyone's a superior. You know, if we actually are advancing in Krishna consciousness, everyone is superior. So you have to be that way with everyone. Just like Srila Prabhupada wrote that one letter, he said, I forget who it was to, but he said, so you're calling each other Prabhu? That means master. Not like Prabhu, get out of here. No, Prabhu, I can't stand your face. No, it's like, Prabhu, you're a master. So we should be dealing with each other in that way. So Devahuti, by this intimate and reverential service, was able to achieve the favor of her husband. And by that, she was so absorbed in what we should all be absorbed in, which is service. You know? So absorbed in service, she forgot about, you know, her external body. Of course, we had that example with Jayananda Prabhu. You know, he was so absorbed in pleasing Prabhupada, he didn't care about his body. And actually, at one point, Srila Prabhupada told him to take care of his health. And he went to a clinic in Tijuana. But after a few days, he was giving Bhagavad Gita class to the cancer patients. And then the director said, I'm sorry, you can't do this. This will disturb the people. They have to be curing themselves. I said, well, so he left. You know, if I can't give a class on Bhagavad Gita, what's the use of being here? And so detached from the body. Just like one time when Srila Prabhupada was coming back from a walk in Los Angeles, you know, sometimes he would come back and they would give him a sweet from Mangalartik, and everybody, all the other devotees would get some Maha sweet. So one devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, why did the 6 Goswamis just take like a little palmful, or Raghunath Das taking like broken rice, washing off the rotten part of it, and taking the rest? Why didn't they take Mahaprasadam? No. And Prabhupada said, because they are eating with Krishna. No. And Raghunath Das, actually, one time, he was feeling very sick to his stomach. And so his assistant went and got an Ayurvedic doctor. And the doctor came, felt his pulse and whatever, said, oh, indigestion. And he said, impossible. He only eats a couple palmfuls of food every day. How can he possibly have indigestion? And the doctor said, no, indigestion. No. And Raghunath Das said, well, actually yesterday I had a dream, and Srimati Radharani took the remnants of Krishna and gave them to me. And I ate everything. So they weren't living in this world. They're living on the transcendental platform. And Srila Prabhupada is inviting us all to live on that platform. And once we can give up our cultural attachments and other types of attachments, then we can achieve that. So she achieved the perfection of service, being such a devoted wife, such a dedicated servant. Service is so wonderful because when you're a servant, you don't have to worry about anything. When you're a master, you have to worry about everything. If you think you're a master, I have money, I have this, I have properties. The people I've met in my life who are the most miserable are the wealthiest people because they're always in anxiety. One time there was one lady, she was the owner of an airline in Central America. It doesn't exist anymore, Taka Airlines. So somehow or another, I gave a book to her chauffeur, and he gave her the book. And she said, she read Prabhupada's book, and she said, I want to speak to that person. So I was doing, Sankirtan at an intersection, so the chauffeur drives up this big car, and he says, please come with me. I thought I was being abducted or something. So he took me, and they came to this huge mansion. It was about 2 blocks, a house, took up about 2 blocks. I went into the gate and everything, and the lady was very happy to see me. And so we sat down and started talking about Bhagavad Gita. And she said, and I said, with all due respect, you look like a prisoner. You have big walls with barbed wire on the top, and you have guards on the, I feel like I'm in a prison. And she said, you're right. It's a prison. I can't go out. And whenever I go out, I'm so fearful that someone will take me, rob me, so I'm just afraid I can't go out. And I said, if you read this book, you will be free from fear. And unfortunately, like a few weeks later, she did get kidnapped, and I don't know what happened to her after that. I guess she didn't have enough time to read the whole book, but anyway, she was somehow or another attracted to Krishna. But it was a very interesting experience to see. She was the wealthiest lady in the whole country, and probably the most miserable person. And then that same day, I went walking in the countryside just to see another type of prisoner. And I saw this man, I was walking, there's new development. They have, especially in Latin America, and they have these developments where they build like 2,000 houses and they all look the same. You have to paint your house in a certain way to figure out which one it is. And so I saw one man moving into this house. And, he had this old truck. And so I said, so where are you coming from? Because I knew it. He said, oh, yes, I was living on a farm, but now I got this house. I'm going to work in the factory. And I said, oh, so how much land did you have in your farm? Oh, about 2 acres. And you were growing your own food? Oh, yes. But I didn't have electricity, and I didn't have television. Now I'm going to have electricity, television, and running water. And I said, yes, and you're going to live in 80 square meters. And that's it. All concrete. And everything around you is concrete. Before you were surrounded by trees, and you had a nice well. Now you get nice chlorinated water. And so he sat there, and he thought, I gave him a book. And he said, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I should move back. I don't know what happened after that. But so, modern society and life in general offers us so many things, but they become like anchors and chains, like Jacob Marley, that tie us to this world and don't allow us to. But a devotee is so happy because they're engaged in service, and you don't have to worry anything except pleasing Krishna, which is not an easy thing to do sometimes. But then Krishna says, Patram pushpam param toyam yome bhakta parayachati. I don't require much. actually, there's nothing you can give me that, you can't cook anything better than Srimati Radharani. You can't play with me any better than my friends. So whatever you offer, I'm happy to receive it. And that's Krishna's promise to help us advance in devotional service. So Devahuti, as it says here, she was a beautiful, beautiful princess. Not only was she a beautiful princess, she had all the wealth of the universe at her disposal. Not only did she have that, she was highly educated. And not only did she have that, but she was coming from the greatest lineage in the whole universe. And she gave all that up just to serve her husband, who, by modern calculations, would be just like one person stopped me some years ago and said, "So what do you do?" I said, "Well, I'm a monk, and I give some lectures, and I try to help people understand spirituality." And he said, "Yeah, but what do you do? Like, what kind of work do you do?" I said, "Well, that is my work." And he said, "Gee, I wish I could do that. He was, I forget what he was, plumber or carpenter or something. He said, "How many hours a day do you work?" I said, "Well, about 18, on the average." He said, "I'll stick with my job, So, but anyway, the point is that. So Queen Kunti says, Janmaishvara Shuta Shubir Edamanam Varam Pumam, that these four things are great impediments. Coming from a reputable family, having wealth, having knowledge, and having beauty or very wonderful personal characteristics that can be very distracting. And the worst thing is, Naivarhat Abhibatum Vai. When these things interfere with our Krishna consciousness, we can't really understand Krishna with feeling. Tvama kinchana gochara. Only when you're a kinchana gochara, when you're free from the impediments of these things. But Devahuti was so great. She had all these things. And Prabhupada also had not always. Prabhupada had great lineage. He didn't have a whole lot of wealth. He didn't come from a wealthy family. But he was astrologically purported to be the wealthiest person in India. But Prabhupada had all these things, but used them perfectly in Krishna's service. So if we have any one of these things, just like one very wealthy devotee spoke to me one time, and he said, sometimes I feel bad because everybody approaches me for a donation. And he said, I'm sure if I didn't have any money, probably nobody would even like me. And I said, no, Prabhu. You are receiving Lakshmi Devi's grace to distribute what she has in Krishna's service. You should be happy that all these people are approaching you. And you're the instrument for Krishna and Krishna's Lakshmi to be able to be used in his service. And he said, no, thank you. Thank you for it. Because he was feeling, everybody just comes to me for money. And so anyway, he was happy. So these opulences, we have to be very careful with them. And therefore, the Bhāgavatam says that, there was a conversation between Shukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. Shukadev said that when Krishna favors someone, he takes away everything. Yasyaham anuginami and taddanam harishe taddanam shanai. He takes away everything when he favors them. I had one disciple who was a little wealthy. He read that verse and he came to me like really concerned. He said, is Krishna going to do this to me? And I said, only when you're ready. And so about a year and a half ago, he got a terminal disease, and he had to spend so much money on trying to overcome it, which he couldn't do. And he's practically spent all his money. And he said, now I'm ready. You know, he said, thank you for helping me understand. Now I'm ready. And he said, of course, it does help the fact that I've lost about 30 kilos and I'm barely a skeleton and I can't walk anymore. That helps a little bit in realizing that, I'm going to die. So, but the point is that these things can be so distracting, but she was not distracted. So, just like Srila Prabhupada gave us the example that Krishna may take everything away. He took everything away from Srila Prabhupada except for, of course, his Krishna consciousness. Practically took everything away. But Prabhupada was very happy. And sometimes Krishna will give any one of us that test. And if we pass the test, because Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, in relation to that verse, everyone, Krishna wants to give you everything, but you have to be prepared, you have to be ready for it. Otherwise, you will become bewildered. So this was another. Now, we can compare this wonderful, faithful wife to the wife of Ramanujacharya. The wife of Ramanujacharya, she made 3 fatal mistakes. The first one was Ramanuja's dear friend, Kanchipurna. He was from a Shudra family, but he was a great advanced devotee. But he was so humble. Ramanuja invited him to his house. He said, how can I go to your house and, I should be serving you. You shouldn't be serving me. I'm just a Shudra. You're a Brahmin. And he said, you are the greatest Vaishnava. So he went, but he didn't want to disturb. He was so humble, he didn't want to disturb Ramanuja. So he went, and Ramanuja told his wife, make a wonderful feast for him, which she did. She was obedient. And he ate and left, and she distributed the remnants to a Shudra lady. Ramanuja came home and he said, where's the remnants? Oh, I gave them to a Shudra. You're a Brahmin, you shouldn't take those. He got angry, but he controlled himself. No. Then his spiritual master came with his wife, and who was a Brahmin. And while the wife was getting water, she accidentally let some drops of her water from her water pot fall into the water pot of Ramanuja's wife. And she said, now you've contaminated my pot. I'm from a superior family. That was strike number 2. And then a poor Brahmin came to Ramanuja's house. And she said, get out of here, you dirty old man. And he was feeling dejected. He ran into Ramanuja. And Ramanuja said, just take this letter to my wife. Tell her it's from her father, telling her to go away. Come to home immediately. And while she was gone, he took sannyas. So, well, a big difference. The service attitude, or the attitude of following rules and regulations without understanding, what they're tat karma pravartana. I'm sorry, not tat karma, but what's that fourth one? Yes, not following the rules and regulations without understanding the purport, the real reason for following those. So she was following all the rules and regulations, and she lost her husband, by following the rules and not understanding what a Vaishnava is. As it says in Padma Purana, that Vaishnave jati buddhir, that one should never judge a Vaishnava by their birth. Never. And so this lady, she thought she was being very Varnashram, a great Varnashram follower, but she offended the Vaishnavas. So we can see how important it is to understand Vaishnava qualities. And another thing I wanted to mention, because A Vaishnava is a very special person. Just like Kardama Muni, it's mentioned in this chapter, that Kardama Muni was, he was surprised when he made this mansion. He was surprised. I think it was 7 stories high, and it was floating in the air. He himself was surprised, that could actually happen. How did it actually happen? He really couldn't understand. This is what it means to be empowered by Krishna. Krishna Shakti Vinana Hitara Pravartana. If one is empowered by Krishna, one can do, even Srila Prabhupada was surprised when he saw the movement growing, he saw the books being printed. He said, I can't understand how this is happening. How is all this happening? That all these things is all Krishna's mercy. So Kardama Muni also saw it that way. And his wife understood that it wasn't that he created this whole thing. But the most wonderful thing about this whole chapter is the attitude of his wife. He created this beautiful thing. And of course, as is stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that Yangra Chitte Krishna Prema Kore Udai. Then when Krishna Prema wakes up within the heart of a devotee, then Tandra Vakra Kriya Mudra Bigeya Na Bujai. That no one ordinary person can understand the mind or the activities of a Vaishnava. So, Kardama Muni couldn't even understand it himself. But she was so faithful that she was thinking, my husband, he said he'll get married, he's going to get married, but he's a great sage. So as soon as I'm pregnant, then, and a son is born, he's going to go away. Now, any ordinary wife would probably think, then, let me wait a while because I don't want him to go away. But she was thinking, I'm such a bad wife because look at me. How will he be attracted? And if he's not attracted, how will I become pregnant? And if I don't become pregnant, then he won't be able to go away and do what he wants to do, which is to be a great sage. And therefore, I will accept becoming beautiful so that he will be attracted, so that he can do his duty. That's how detached she was from. Of course, now people, unfortunately, sometimes when read this chapter, or these chapters, they misunderstand it. And they think that the wife is supposed to be a menial servant, and anything you do, that's okay, and she just has to swallow it. And that may be true if we're on the level of Kardama Muni. But there may be 1 or 2 of us that are not. So we should probably be a little more careful and try to serve one another. Actually, when I try to avoid counseling couples because it can get you into a lot of trouble sometimes, especially if the questions are materially oriented. But I always tell them, if you want a successful marriage, which is actually what Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji told to one young man, you must serve her and she must serve you. If your only objective is to serve the husband or the wife, then it's a beautiful relationship. But as soon as you want to exploit the other person, then it becomes hellish. It just becomes competition. Who will win? Who will get what they want? And or let's trade a little bit. You get this, I get that. And so that's why when there's culture and when people understand the real purpose of marriage is spiritual, then marriages last. But when they become material, well, we can see the result. The result is they don't last because there's no service attitude. So this is one of the predominant one of the very predominant aspects of this chapter is to be a servant. And then one last point I want to mention is that Devahuti when she saw this huge palace, she became disturbed because she was thinking, my husband has created this beautiful palace so that I can have a child. But when he looks at me, he's going to think, he's not going to be attracted. Therefore, I don't want this palace. Because he will become thinking, okay, now's my chance. He'll see me, and then the whole thing will be ruined. Therefore, let us go back to the cottage. Although she herself thought, no, I can't please him in a cottage. And therefore, I will accept it. She was in anxiety, so surrendered, so surrendered. And if we can be that surrendered to Krishna, we don't want to disturb Krishna. We don't want Krishna to do anything that would. But on the other hand, Krishna says, Sarvadhamam parityajam mamekam sharanam braja, that you must surrender to me and I will take care of everything. So this is a dilemma for a devotee. On the one hand, we don't want to disturb Krishna. On the other hand, Krishna says, please disturb me. I want you to depend on me. I want you to depend on me. So what does depend on me mean? It means surrender to what Krishna wants us to do, which is what will make us happy. And Krishna doesn't want us to do anything except be blissful. But to do that, we have to serve him. We have to carry out his mission, especially when he takes the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then we have to serve his Sankirtan mission, how in whatever capacity, distributing books, distributing prasadam, taking care of the deities, cleaning the floor. One time Srila Prabhupada said, when you clean the floor of the temple, it's just like wiping the body of the deity. So everything becomes so related to the Sankirtan movement because everything is meant to serve the Sankirtan movement. And I'll just close with this. In Antya Lila, Srila Prabhupada says in one purport, the mission of this Krishna consciousness movement is to give Krishna consciousness to everyone. That's our mission. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had many reasons for coming, and his most intimate reason was just to experience the different moods of Srimati Radharani, her happiness and her sweetness. But his mission is to spread Krishna consciousness. And that's Krishna's mission, and that's Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, that's Srila Prabhupada's mission, and that's our mission. And we shouldn't let anything else distract us. Just like Devahuti was so fixed in serving her husband, nothing could distract her. Even the inconveniences of bodily existence could not disturb her. And if we can achieve that from her example in serving Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then the Sankirtan movement will engulf the whole universe. So these are some thoughts I had on this verse. I'll stop here. Any comments or questions, reflections, realizations, chastisements? Yes. I just have to put in my ears so I can hear.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for the class. So my question is,
so I can hear you
my question is that
lost like 40% thanks to the Wampers and Mayapur speakers.
So we see the example of Devahuti here in the scripture, that she is so much in the service attitude that she forgets to take care of her body. But sometimes we see that around us, we are also like busy in our life and we also neglect the care of our body, which is different. How do we understand the difference in these two scenarios?
Well, we're very fortunate to have Srila Prabhupada's presence. And that's available for everyone. This is called Shiksha. Shiksha is the active principle in spiritual life. So, Srila Prabhupada has given us that mercy. Well, the arrangement of material nature has given us that mercy that we can have Srila Prabhupada. Just like there was one scholar that said actually the devotees of Krishna are more fortunate than the Christians. He was a Christian scholar. He said because, we're arguing about did Christ say this or not, and everything that Prabhupada said, you have it all recorded. So he said you're more fortunate than the Christian. So this is the important thing is to take advantage of it. And Srila Prabhupada left his books, his lectures, his comments. Even though his letters, somehow or another he didn't want so much his letters and his conversations to be translated. Somehow or another it happened, and they're very beneficial. There's a few things he said that, some people don't understand. Just like I just mentioned, who can understand a Vaishnava? The Prabhupada was so much beyond the bodily concept that some things he said, people could misinterpret it as being related to the body. But everything that Srila Prabhupada says is so valuable. If we can just take it to heart and share it with others, then this world will be transformed. As Prabhupada said, if 10% of the population becomes Krishna conscious, the whole world becomes Krishna conscious. I had once I was in the jungles of Nicaragua on a little boat, and there's nobody there. So I got to this one junction where you go from one boat to another, and so this one man, another boat came up. The boat, these are little canoes, not like boats. So this German man got off, and he went, "I can't believe it, the Hare Krishnas are everywhere." I came to the jungle to be alone, and the Hare Krishnas are here. So the point is that a devotee is so potent that, even a fool like myself, just because I was dressed as a Vaishnava, trying to do something in a Vaishnava way, this man thought of Krishna. And so that's another reason why it's nice sometimes to wear Vaishnava dress, because just like I know one devotee who met another devotee, he was in regular dress. So he knew this devotee was a GBC, but the devotee he was trying to get him to preach to him, but he was absorbed in something. He didn't want to talk, So he said, "So what is that book? What is that book about?" And the devotee was kind of disguised, and he said, "Oh, it's just a philosophical book, But what, he was really trying to get him to preach to him. But the point is that when we dress as Vaishnavas, wherever we go, people are asking questions. When we first joined, many years ago, people would throw beer cans at us and things like that, say, "Get a job," But that doesn't happen anymore. I mean, maybe sometimes. But generally speaking, people are very happy to see the devotees nowadays. And that's Krishna's mercy and Srila Prabhupada's mercy. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for your class. In your class, you mentioned that when Krishna likes someone, he takes everything that the man possesses. But he also says that Shruhuda Sarva Bhutanam. And I'm a little confused, like if he is the well-wisher of everyone, then why is he putting the person, the people who like him the most in trouble?
Well, I think as devotees, as Vaishnavas, we should just be Vaishnavas. Don't worry about, just try to do things as Srila Prabhupada told us to do. And just try to be Krishna conscious. If you're Krishna conscious, then people who interact with you will be happy, will be pleased, and you will be an inspiration to them. So that's the most important thing. Anything else is superficial and superfluous. Anyone else? Yes. Hare Krishna.
You're talking about different ways of preaching. One way is through example. If we're not a good example, should we still try and preach?
Well, preaching depends on the attitude more than anything, and the desire to give Krishna consciousness to others. So, whatever atmosphere or situation we may be in, just like, I was in the army and I somehow managed to preach, and at least 3 devotees stayed as devotees, 3 people that I was speaking to. So I felt like it was a great success. In 2 years, I could influence 3 people by Krishna's mercy, or be the instrument that they could come to Krishna consciousness. One of them lives in Vrindavan, so at least I got a little credit there somehow or another. Being the wrong person in the right place, and was able to share Krishna consciousness. So when we have that desire just to share, just to be the instrument, as Krishna encouraged Arjuna, that just be my instrument. I've got everything's already worked out, everything's perfect. You become my instrument. As Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur says, that Vishvapurnam Sukayate. I only see everything's perfect within the universe because Krishna's there. So if we can see that and fit into Krishna's plan and Lord Chaitanya's plan of preaching, then in any circumstance we'll be successful. So now it's 9 o'clock, and according to this notice here, I must stop. Otherwise a little cane may come and pull me off the seat here. So thank you all very much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Tathai Gaur Premanandi. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava.